Deb.
Hi, Nancy. Hi, Jody.
Hello.
Oh, hello. What's that noise in the background? Oh, there it went.
Hi, Mel.
Mel.
Hi. So nice out this afternoon.
It was gorgeous.
I know,
Beautiful.
springtime.
What's strange is I still have all the things, a lot of things from the fall blooming out there, and I have narcissus and springtime stuff starting to bloom. It's like very, very weird.
Yeah, were the kids out of school early today? There was a whole gaggle of them enjoying the picnic table outside of my office.
Oh my gosh, how funny. Yes, it was the once a month early release. Yeah, so they were done at about 12:30.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Hello.
Hello, Lauren.
Hello.
I like your
Mel, what a
sweater.
cute haircut.
Festive.
Well, I assume Carrie will be here. I don't know about anybody else, but
I haven't heard that. Yeah, I haven't heard that anybody couldn't make it.
We need at least one more person to get anything done. All right, looks like Carrie and Andrew, we are almost fully formed here. So we can go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to your December Arts and Culture Commission meeting. Doug, will you, maybe I can share the screen. First, any public comments? No? There we go. Yes, Jody, this is typically where you kind of give us the update on anything from the historical societies or historical Main Street. Is there anything to share? Somehow my video of her just went away. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I will take your silence. Oh. I
I
can't
just
hear
put
you.
that on you because you were sharing the screen, so.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think we have any updates. The committee that's going to discuss the topper hasn't met yet. So, and I haven't heard anybody from the Arts Commission who wants to be a part of that group. So if somebody decides they want to be a part of that group, please let me know and I'll let the chair of that group, Kim Bria, is going to sort of chair that group. And we have representatives, I think I mentioned before, from the Neighborhood Association, Main Street, and a couple of just citizens at large in that group. And they will hopefully have a meeting sometime in the next week or so. And I think we were waiting to hear from you all if you wanted to have information on your future art exhibit and trying to get names of artists. If you want information at one of our booths at the holiday market. So if you decide you do want that included at the holiday market, please let myself know, or you can let Rebecca, our Main Street manager, as well know. So whatever works best. But I think it'd be great if we could have materials there so people who are there for the holiday market know that you're looking for the names of artists in the area.
Right. Thanks, Jody. Hopefully we'll have approval of something that we will be able to share at the holiday market as of the end of this meeting. So
that would be great.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the update. Now we've got approval of the minutes is the next thing. Try not to make this too bubbly, but I am just not super great at it. Okay. Share these. As always, Mel sent these out pretty quick after our last meeting, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to review them. Are there any comments, changes, or motions to approve?
I confess I have not reviewed them.
We'll do that right now.
I read them when Mel first sent them out, and they looked really good to me. So I'll give everyone another moment to read.
Yeah, I didn't see anything that needed to be changed or updated.
So I move that we approve the minutes from last month's meeting.
I second.
Anyone opposed? All right, then the November 3rd draft minutes are approved and will become official minutes. Thank you all. I will stop that. All right, moving right along. So I know there's a couple things to add to the agenda. We have the old business. Mel sent out the annual report that she wanted to mention. And then I also wanted to mention there's two of us whose tenure is up. And so just have a brief update on what that might look like in the transition. So I think first we can do, Mel, you kind of have two things. You have the annual report and the online questionnaire. Do you want to take both of those?
Yeah, the annual report, there's just challenges and goal setting, accomplishments, challenges, and then anything you want the council to know. This needs to be in by the end of the year. And so this is the time that we need to get that. I need to get that information so I can complete the report and get it up to Dylan by the 17th of the month. So that's why I added it on the agenda towards the end after we got through.
Oh, okay.
Else. And then Doug's gonna talk about the online questionnaire database and Shane, I believe.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, then I'll stop sharing that. Okay, great. Doug, take it away.
So I had a quick conversation with Shane about this, and we have been kind of backed up with some other issues right now. But I think it's getting the database onto basically, I think we're talking about a Google form. Wasn't that what we were talking about originally? To put it on there is a little more challenging than I thought it should be, but I would just say that I'm working on that piece from the IT perspective and trying to get it so that they can have it available on the website for people to use. We may need to use a different form, but once that's been created by the commission, it really won't matter what I believe what we're using, whether it be Google Forms or something else. The reality will be is, are people able to access it, input their information, and are you all able to access the information that they've given you and be able to use it in a relatively easy way. So I'm still working on that piece for you.
It
Okay.
seems to me that there'd be a couple different paths to that. One would be to get it implemented in the city's desired backend with a web form on our homepage, or like on the commission's page on the city's website. And the other path would be to just put up a Google form, which would then collect the data. We could then back up the resulting Google sheet as an Excel spreadsheet in our Dropbox so that it's covered from a records retention standpoint. Would there be anything that would prevent us from going that route in the interim?
No, I think the easiest route would be for us to just be posting the URL on the commission's website that would then take people to the Google Forms. And then, of course, you said backing it up, making sure that we have it in a way that could be accessed if needed to by the public. To comply with the public records law would be fine. It's the actually implementing the cells, if you will, into the page, because it's not just working on the back end at IT, it's also working on with our provider that does our website too. So there's a few layers to it. So yes, the easiest way to do it would be to just have a URL that connects us to our Google form. And if we want to do that, that's something we can happen fairly quickly.
And could we, can we have somebody, I recall in the last couple of months, there was an edit made to our webpage that wasn't like a big IT rigmarole, right? Like we can get somebody at the city to do minor textual updates.
I'd like to say within an hour or two, if we're working that day, we could have that URL up.
Okay, cool. What's the frequency with which we would have to back things up into Dropbox to appease?
I think to be safe, we'd want to do it fairly regularly, every day at least. Probably every couple of days, we could set that algorithm up.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
So Carrie, is the did you send that to everybody, the sort of the flyer for the events, the QR code on there? Does that go to a Google form?
Right now it's just a draft because I didn't know where it should go.
Okay.
But it can go wherever we want it to go.
Okay.
So
I never did an actual form, but I sent the questions to Mel, and it's just
I have the list.
straightforward. So if that seems easy enough to just implement, then.
well, and it would be the desired user experience there. We could either send the QR code. I was going to, can we move on to the flyer real quick? Because
I think they're sort of one and the same a little bit. Yeah, they're all together.
So hopefully everybody received the flyer draft that I sent out like right before Thanksgiving. So I know it was not exactly at the top of everyone's to-do list when I did that. So my plan was to include a QR code as well as an actual URL, because I know not everybody is comfortable with QR codes. So if we point it to our webpage, which in turn points to the thing to fill out, that's a little bit more, like that involves more effort in terms of the user getting from here to there, but it results in a more obvious URL. It's long, but it makes human readable sense. Whereas if we go directly to a Google form, we can get a short one, but it's going to be like a weird, obscure 07GL blah, blah, blah. Right. So, so we could do either way.
Any thoughts on that? Folks?
I think shorter is always better, and a lot of people don't know how to use QR codes or don't have a setup on their phone to do it. And so I think we need to do something in addition to a QR code at the very least.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to have the URL. I guess my fear is that the machine generated URL will be almost as intimidating to less tech savvy folks as a QR code. So I'm leaning towards the longer human readable URL, even though the resulting UX is a longer route. I
Do
feel
we
like
have
it's
a
friendlier route?
Do we have a domain that could potentially point to or the longer West Linn URL? Like for the Arts Commission?
No,
There's
our URL is the City of West Linn / Arts Commission. That's our web property at the moment.
You know, we may consider just, spending $10 a year and getting a concise URL that can point directly there to make it easier.
I think that's a definitely good strategy when we have more going on online. But I don't know if we want to do that, especially if we want to get a flyer out at events, conceivably starting this weekend. I don't know if we'd want to spin that up, but that would certainly be.
Can we do a tiny URL that then links them to the URL? So then
we can certainly do that as well, but anything that is a URL shortener is going to be a machine generated, less human readable URL.
I don't mind the longer URL. I mean, just in for this particular like 2 events for the arts and crafts thing at the community center, and then for the winter fair downtown. I also would think, I mean, if, I'm assuming it's a piece of paper or a postcard or something, and then on the back you could have the form basically, and if somebody were actually at these events, they could collect physical things, which is, I know, not a top choice, but for the most intimidated / least tech savvy among us, that perhaps just filling it out would be sort of the in-between between doing a QR code and also like who's going to go home and then type in nobody's going to do that, right? I don't know, maybe.
I mean, that's totally fine too, to do a paper-based one. It's just a matter of the logistics. So not that it's a complicated thing, but like Jody, I know that you or people from your organization will be at the event downtown. If we also want to try and do something at the crafts fair, that we don't have like a presence. And so I think it's one thing to like sidle up when they open in the morning and deposit a pile of flyers. But it's another thing to have like a basket and somebody who goes back and gets them. And maybe that's fine. Maybe I've never gone to the crafts festival. Maybe that's not a big deal. And there's like a community table and I can say, hey, is it cool if I put this stuff here in a basket and come back in a few hours? But there's no guarantee.
The Main Street information booth was where it'd be. We have an information booth, and so we'd have it there. And you can have a basket there, a stack of them with a basket so people could return them, or you could have a sign with a QR code as well, because we've definitely had things with QR codes at our table before for people to scan, like when we were raising money for the signage for the Willamette meteorite. We did that, and we had some donations that way, and some people just took the flyer and got online. So yeah, you got it. A little of both.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to have to be some kind of takeaway anyway, right? I mean, because if people are taking a picture of the thing with the information on it, then they'll just get to the QR code anyway. Like, I assumed there would be things, right?
Well, I mean, if we just did a QR code, we could literally just have more like what Jody described.
Yeah, the thing.
Like we could even have like an acrylic thing, so it's more of just like you don't take this; it's here forever. Take a picture if you want. But yeah, I think having something that they could walk away with, that was my intention, was that if they want to save a smidgen of a tree and take a picture of it and not take one, cool. If they would rather have the URL in their pocket or whatever to remind them later, that works too. If we want to, and so that was what I had designed for, was like it's like a quarter of a, letter piece of paper. If we want to just include the questions on there as well and have a physical Dropbox on site, that works too, but then I would probably do like a 2-up instead of 4-up.
Other
I guess-
thoughts? Ideas?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I just was asking to see if anybody had anything else to say, so go ahead.
Oh, just I guess my vote would be to keep it more of the quarter, just because at this point, if we wanted to try and do the thing this weekend, we don't have a whole lot of time.
Carrie, if you want to send that to me and just get it on, so it's doubled on a regular size piece of paper, I'm happy to print those off on some light cardstock and cut them in half, and somebody can swing by the library and pick them up at any time.
That'd be awesome. Thanks.
So I can leave them.
Just remember that our event is not until a week from Saturday, so you've got
Oh, okay.
a little time there.
Okay.
Well, there's your event a week from Saturday, but then there's also the one at the community center this Saturday. So we're hoping to do
That's
both.
right, there is that on this Saturday, so good.
Know when that one is? I've not been paying attention. The arts is the thing that's at the community center.
I'm pretty sure it's this weekend.
Oh, okay, that one
And
is.
the only reason I even know as little as I do is I was thinking about participating in it and then decided that right before finals week was not the time. So that's the only, that's the part that's like in my head. So that's,
Sure.
that is the memory I'm relying on. So we should double check that.
Fantastic. Well, we will confirm the date of that. I am around this weekend, so if it is this weekend, I can swing by and pick up if Mel prints them out and take them there. I would like to, sorry, hold on, give me just a second.
And of course, like if people want to tweak text, the headline, the body, whatever, all of that is fair game too.
Yeah. So it's just this box, right? Like this is this.
Oh yeah, that's it. Like that is the flyer in its entirety.
Yeah.
I was trying to avoid bleeds so that we could just print it out
Mhm.
4-up and not have to worry about doing any, like, so that we don't have to be careful cutting them out even.
Perfect. So I'd like to know if anybody would like to make a motion to approve this to as it is, or if anybody would like to make changes to it. But if we can,
I'll motion to approve it as is.
I'll second.
lovely. Anybody opposed? Carrie? No? Okay. Great. Then
Actually, if you could make the logo, no, sorry.
Now, if you would be so kind as to print those out and then just shoot me an email when they're ready, I can swing by the library. Tomorrow is Thursday, so Friday, if that works for you, that'd be great.
And Mel, I'll put those in one for a PDF for you. We
Yeah.
might have a little bit of back and forth just in case your print margins are different than what I'm planning for, and we can
Yeah,
tweak.
we'll work it out. Sure.
Yay. And then I am gone next weekend. So Jody, how can we get some to you?
Do you know where our off Main Street office is on Main Street on Willamette Falls Drive?
I'm sure I've seen the,
It's,
You know what? I'm going to see Jody next Wednesday. I can just bring it to her then.
that's a perfect
that would be
solution.
perfect.
That would be great. I'll make sure they get there then. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, it's a grand experiment, all of it. Just who will take them, who will sign up, who will put their information in there. And so Carrie, you'll link that QR code to the website. And then on our website, we will put the link to the Google form.
Yeah.
Correct? Everybody's nodding. Okay. That all seems.
And I'm happy to create the form if you want and all that.
Yeah, either way, if you're already in there tinkering around. I think you have the list that I sent to Mel, so it's pretty straightforward.
And we can brand it with stuff.
Okay. I don't know how to do that, so I will let you do that. Thank you so much. Cool. Okay. That takes care of A and B. I just wanted to see if there was any new ideas or any follow-up that anybody wanted on the library show. Proposed library show, future library show. All right, I will take your silence as a no.
I still think we should do it.
Yes, I agree. We'll leave it on there as like in the old business place until we have some more information about who's in the community, who we might be able to pull from. Carrie, I know you mentioned you didn't have much of an art map update, but it's just to check in if there's anything new.
I haven't done anything, but I wasn't sure. There was a little bit of feedback I think it was Beata asked that to the extent that we can say like this is inside here, or like have a more descriptive location that we could do that. Have addresses where addresses are available. I have to play with it a little bit to see if we can bounce back and forth. I don't think we can do both human readable addresses and the latitude longitude data that's required. But I'll play around with how we can surface that best. And otherwise, I don't know if other people had other strong feelings about stuff. Like the other things we can do is we can customize the iconography per category, which I think we'll have to do because the default ones aren't tailored to arts organizations, shockingly. And we can choose which colors we want for what and that kind of thing. And we could spend as much time as we want to thinking around with it. It's just a matter of what the priorities are, and then we can put it out in the world. And then we'll have 2 links on our website.
Hot commission. Cool. Well, I think yeah, all those ideas sound good. You know, I know you're swamped with school and etc. So I think we'll get through the holidays
Real long.
Yeah. You know, see how this one link turns out before we open up a whole second link, and you know, at least nobody knows it's there, so we can keep tinkering with it. And I mean, I would just encourage if any of you, and I can resend the link to the spreadsheet, or Carrie can, just if you see art out there, like the more we can get kind of in there now, the more examples there will be for people later when we do actually reveal it. So just as you're out in the world, and you know, things like even just a little bit of information is fine. You don't have to have a ton in there. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. Great. Under board comments, I will mention, so Nancy's tenure is up at the end of the year. So she sent a note. Hopefully everybody saw that she will not be renewing. Nancy, you want to say anything?
Just what I said in the email. It's mainly a scheduling overcommitted, I'm sure, as we all are, but I've enjoyed working with all of you, and I would love to stay kind of your high school connection. If you ever had needed a question about connecting with the art department at the high school, or you know, I can send public comment to your meeting about upcoming performances and things like that. So yeah, so that's mainly it.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time and your service, Nancy.
Thank you
Appreciated
all.
your continued presence. So
Thank you. And I've let Kathy Molesky know at the city hall, so she knows about the vacancy.
great. So then that gives us 2 vacancies. My term is also up at the end of the year. I have not honestly decided whether or not I'm going to reapply, and it may just be by virtue of not deciding that I decide. Then I'm just get the boot. I will be in touch with, I will let you guys know when I decide either way, but should I decide not to continue, Carrie will default as the chair, as she is currently co-chair, and her term goes for 1 more year. So if you know anybody in the community who wants to get involved, I think this has been a great group. And if I decide not to reapply, obviously there's no guarantee that I would get accepted again, but that will leave 3 openings. So it'd be great to get some new community members involved.
How will that all work procedurally? Like if we have 3 vacancies, then we're down to 4. And then does that mean that we need 3 for a quorum, or does that mean we like, then is it a quorum out of 4, or is it a quorum of our original 7, which means everyone will have to show up, which to be realistic would mean that we will have unlikely to be meeting again until more people.
I can check in on that. I believe it would be that if they're not filled, that's still a 7-person operation. So everyone would have to show up for the 4. Hopefully, it won't be this. Obviously, this is a council and mayor decision. I'm not going to tell you if there's 1 or 100 applicants, because I still want you to apply, Carrie. So, or 0 applicants, but I do think that
That's for you, Lauren.
Yeah.
Lauren, I'm sorry, did I say Carrie?
It's okay.
So yeah, so they will choose off of that. Some of those applicants, like you all applied originally, and the same kind of thing. They'll go through them. I don't know if they'll be contacting the actual Arts and Culture Commission about it. I think that they probably won't. They haven't. That's not been a tradition in the past to do that. So,
yeah.
But hopefully we'll get some good folks to come in. Like two good folks, and hopefully not 3, but 2. No pressure there, Lauren. But anyway, okay. So that's it. And I believe it is a quorum, and I will check on that and make sure, because there will be probably a little bit of lag time between now and when they actually make the appointment, since this is the last meeting of the year.
Yeah. Well, does anybody know anything about Mary Leffner, who is a part of this group and like never comes? Because her term goes through the end of next year too. So
I do believe that in the bylaws of all of the commissions and advisory groups, that if someone does not attend for 3 times in a year, that they could be potentially not on that group anymore. I don't know how that actually works. I don't know if that's a decision that's made by the group or a decision made by the city or the council. But I do know that there is some language around that says something to that effect.
interesting. All right. Well, I will consider reapplying. Yeah, because I think this group is great, and I would hate to see it flounder merely for lack of attendance. So yeah, get the word out. We'll do that this weekend. Maybe people don't know we exist. Maybe they just need to know we exist.
We could put that in our questionnaire. Be like, do you want to join our mailing list? Hell, you want to just start showing up? Want to be fair?
Here's the link we could put 3 links on the website. Amazing. Link to the application. Which it might not hurt to do that anyway. Just
if we're updating that page, then
if it's easy enough to just be like, apply to be on the commission.
Yeah.
Here. Yeah, I don't know if or when city council has those applications on their list. Probably February, I would guess. January, February. Yeah. Mary's giving me the nod. So cool. Is there any other board comments or anything else anybody would like to discuss?
I have a question, and this might have been addressed and I just missed it or forgot. But do we know where we're at in terms of getting the our guidelines in front of city council and reviewed and blessed? And like, is that slated for a meeting or has that happened?
I don't believe that it's on the schedule yet, but I mean, since the day it was on the schedule, that also got overridden by some other things that happened that day, which we all remember. So I can check on that. I will make sure that it gets on as soon as possible and remind them that this was on the agenda and ready to go, and it didn't happen.
Thanks.
I know one thing about that. I know that Jerry and Mayor Walters have been discussing the timing of whether the wishes of council should inform how to make the wishes of council inform the guidelines of each advisory group. So, and so far it had been not really timed correctly to work ideally. And I think that's being reviewed right now. And I'm not really sure exactly how it was done in the past. Maybe Doug would know, but I think it's under review. Doug, are you involved in that conversation too?
I am.
Okay.
I believe what they're planning to do is try to align it with the fiscal year. So right now we work off the calendar year, but from a budgetary process, we'll work off the middle of the year, if you will. Starts our fiscal year. So I think first off is aligning those two things together. So then it makes it so it also helps with the budget in the sense of what we have. I mean, we also are continuing to accumulate funds that can be spent by Arts and Culture Commission, or at least recommended for spending by the Arts and Culture Commission. So those are continuing to be there as well. So it would make some sense to have those things aligned, council goals, advisory goals, and obviously budgetary goals or needs, all in the same kind of time frame. So I know that's being discussed with the mayor, as you said, Mary, and as well as Jerry and some other folks. So we'll see what comes from that. But I do think that we haven't had a chance, and then COVID hit, of course, to get back onto the agenda. So thank you, Carrie, for reminding, and I will ask both Jerry and the mayor to see if that's something that they can explain again the history behind this. Obviously, Jerry wasn't here when that day happened, so we can kind of see if we can get that back up and rolling.
And Mary, what you're referring to is kind of reviewing the process for informing guidelines for all commissions, right? So this is bigger than ours. It just might be good timing as us being like the guinea pig for being part of that new process or something.
Yes, and Arts and Culture isn't the only advisory group undergoing this. So it is all of it across the board, and it did make sense. So I liked the idea, and not having been operating in the former protocol for very long, I don't have quite a frame of reference, but what they were suggesting made sense. So stay tuned.
Right. Thank you for that update.
I want to say one other thing. I think that there may be an opportunity, and I'll have to check with this because I don't want to speak out of turn, but we could get some of these things right away on the consent agenda, and then we could maybe potentially have another time where you can meet with like we were planning on doing with the actual joint process with the council itself. But if it's something that has already been vetted and we come to having something to show to them, which I know we have, it could potentially just be part of a consent agenda, and I think that would be weighed by the mayor and others to say, well, no, we really want to talk to some folks in person about this, and that would change it a little bit. But if there wasn't, and there was enough discussion and everything seemed to be fine, that could then help that process go along, as well as planning a time when you can all meet potentially like we were supposed to years ago now. So
Yeah, I mean, it would be amazing if they could just approve the bylaws without us necessarily. particularly, I mean, obviously it's only December, but in light of the future library show, if we don't have an official like guideline for how to select artists, then it makes that more challenging. So that would be awesome. Anything anybody can do to get that in front of people seems good. So great. Anything else for the good of the order?
Sorry, just one more quick.
Yes, please carry all the things. You can have all the things.
Just as a reminder too, like, so we got the ordinance changed about kind of the percent for art tax and kind of re-establishing this group as being part of the decision making, or I can't think of the word, but yeah, like we make the suggestions about that. But part of that code explicitly says that there will be guidelines that inform that process. So kind of to Lauren's point, I don't know to what extent our hands are tied or not to do anything in the absence of those guidelines that the city ordinance says shall exist.
I will check on that, make sure with both Jerry, Mayor, and Kathy and legal to make sure. My gut tells me that we can still operate and still do those kind of things, as long as we're working towards that, or you're working towards that. So I don't think that we should, until I tell you that it's no, we got to halt, stop everything. I think it's probably okay with the kind of things you're talking about, especially with, I think where it would become maybe an issue is if it hadn't been completely signed off for some major acquisition. But if we're putting on a program, I mean, even put it this way, we could even put it under the auspice of the library and then, budget it that way, and then it would still be fine. So I don't want that that shouldn't be the reason we stop right now going forward with those ideas, because there's other methods that we can use if we need to, if we do come across some of those issues.
That's good to know, Doug. Thank you. And also, I mean, we could certainly act in the spirit of our guidelines, right? I mean, it seems like I thought they were very well thought out. So I'd be surprised if there were changes that came from council on those things specifically, but one never knows, I guess. But Carrie, anything else?
I'm good. Thanks.
Andrew, Nancy, Mary, Jody, Mel, Doug, anything else?
I think we just have that report to do real quickly, don't we? No?
Yes, we do. So accomplishments for the last year. List them all.
Almost getting our guidelines approved.
He's close.
Yeah, I have the guidelines ready for approval. All the work Carrie's done on the getting the places started, that
The map.
project started. Yeah, the maps
The arts in the parks and stuff in West Linn.
has a really good start.
Mm-hmm.
But it's, I don't know, like I feel like there's things in motion, but
Yeah, but that's good.
But that's okay. It's a work in progress, right?
Because that can be also under the future plans.
Exactly.
Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Right, if this goes through the calendar year, then we can say have provided flyers at
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
upcoming events.
it began building out our West Linn artists and art patrons database.
Mm-hmm.
And even if that ends up being a bust, we can just like put our own names on there and it will be a small database, but
How about the work that you do with Jody? And that's kind of forged together over the last year, hasn't it?
continued partnership.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jody.
And then challenges, unless there's more accomplishments that we want to add on there.
I think having to just continue to meet virtually is, like everyone, is a challenge, and not having our in-person meeting. And we had a long break over the summer just due to everyone's travel schedules and things. So there was a little bit of a break there for a few months.
I would say, I mean, it's a minor challenge, but in part based on our discussion this evening, just quorum, like achieving quorum and maintaining membership levels and attendance. I guess.
That's probably a particularly good one to put in there, because if that goes back to council, it's a good reminder of the need for more for replacements to be approved sooner rather than later.
I mean, it's so funny. 7 people doesn't seem like very many, but it's so hard to get 7 people together. I mean, obviously there are 7 of us here, but 7 plus.
Right. Well, under accomplishments, it doesn't necessarily mean a tangible anything, but also our partnership with the Clackamas County Arts Alliance, since we now have a better network with our sister organizations.
Got it.
Was this the year that we got the signage up? Was it the beginning of the year? Was it last year for the gathering?
It was before COVID that because Nancy and I were.
Yeah, I remember going to pick up the signage in the middle of pandemic craziness. Like, we didn't know what we should be doing. So I think it did get installed in 2020.
In 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, because we had chair-footed it.
We had talked about hosting Meet the Artists once we had the signage and have Katie McFadden come back, but with everything still up in the air, we never got around to it. So maybe inviting her to the September show would be a little closure to that project.
Great idea.
Okay. Then do September show. Any additional feedback to share with City Council that any of you would like me to include in this report?
I have one thing. I don't even know how best to go about it, but like one thing that has been made really clear through hearing from other organizations is that that I get the impression that most places, like in a lot of municipalities, have somebody on staff that kind of oversees all things arts. And I know that's something that's come up before, that we are the unique Citizens Commission that does not have a staff or department counterpart. And of course, Doug and Mel, you guys are amazing and are our liaisons and help us understand what we're supposed to be doing and circle back with the city on various things. But we don't have, like, we're not the planning commission with the planning departments and that kind of thing. And so I think that's definitely a challenge, but I'm not sure if that's something that, like, if there's even a conversation to be had there of like what that would look like, if that would ever be in the city's tea leaves, to have somebody on staff that is, living art in the city day in, day out.
And I think similarly, I mean, what we've heard from, obviously Lake Oswego is the gold standard of it, but from other small cities as well, is that their arts and culture commissions are separate from the city altogether. So I think, I wouldn't recommend to council to remove it, but that sort of just informs that there's usually like a paid staff person to develop arts and culture in a city is usually just much more successful than citizens trying to get it going. Clearly.
Yeah, Lake Oswego, they have a significant amount of tax money that goes directly to them,
Mhm.
to their arts organization. And I think it would be nice to know what the city's goals are as far as where they envision additional art focus in the community and what the city's plan is that we could potentially help out with.
I know a lot of cities get a big chunk of arts funding through hotel taxes. And turns out Westland doesn't get much of those since we don't have any hotels. So I think that's a big funding gap compared to other cities, is that we don't have that, whatever, the transient lodging tax or whatever it's called. But yeah, I think between, and maybe those, maybe one causes the other, but I think between the like fewer funding options, traditional funding options, and fewer paid roles to kind of get the art machine moving, it makes it tricky.
I believe Lake Oswego's is actually attached to property taxes. They take a small percentage.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's a little unusual that way.
Must have
Well,
been in.
I mean, I know this is like, would be a major ask, but it would be so nice to sit down with council and find out like, what do they actually want to see for arts and culture in the city? Because we've sort of been making it up for the last 2 years, I guess, you know, I mean, I have an idea. I'd like to see more. That's really as far as it goes, but being a council that works at the, you know, under the auspices of city council, that we are just a suggesting body and we don't actually make any real decisions about what goes in where, that it would be so nice to, I know they're so busy, but like sit down for just 2 hours and talk about what is their vision for arts and culture.
I would like to do that. I think that would be really important. I think council should have meetings with all the advisory groups once a year, at least. So people kind of can communicate and know what their purpose is and
yeah,
feel
well,
like
more
they're
than just 10
doing-
minutes on the agenda and you get bumped and then you're waiting, and that would be nice to have our own special session.
Well, I'm all for it.
That would be hugely helpful, because then we could, like, instead of kind of bouncing around of like, oh, here's an idea, we can like, okay, well, here's the actual mission that we're working toward. And this is, and it would help us position things better to council too, of like, we know this is in line with this mission, or, well, we know this is a little bit of a sidestep, but here's why we think this will ultimately help us get there, or whatever the case might be.
Yeah, anytime we can identify clear directives from the city that we can work with, I think is going to help us immensely be more productive and be able to achieve more opportunities for people in the arts in town.
Agreed.
Okay, I'll get a draft of this report. Is there anything else? I'll get a draft of this report with all of your comments on the report. I'll shoot it out to everybody in a draft form, just to kind of get, anybody wants edits, then we can edit. I can send out a final draft before I submit it up to Dylan. Sound good?
Thanks, Mel.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, Mel.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Sure, no problem.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, now anything else? I had no idea. We had so much to say to city council. Turns out we'd really like to share some thoughts. All right, well, then at 5:52, I will adjourn us. I bid you all a very